we were girls and young women who were victimized by Epstein and Maxwell in a sex trafficking ring.
I know there are videos and photos. I know that Jeffrey had recording cameras in his house.
Powerful people who caused us harm are being protected and we're being exposed. It is meant to silence us.
There are calls for Peter Mandelson and Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor to come and give evidence here.
That would be incredibly helpful.
We need to protect the next generation from another sex trafficking crime.
We're going to do whatever we have to find justice, not just for ourselves, but for survivors everywhere.
How important is it for you both that you were all working together to try and achieve justice today?
It's really important because these are my survivor sisters, and they are the only people that truly understand what we've been through.
I think that when you're hearing one voice, it can be easy to ignore. But when you're hearing a collective voice, it's more difficult to not pay attention. And so I think that in addition to what Charlene just said, the sisterhood that we have, this experience that, is so incredibly unique that, despite anyone's kindness and empathy, you just can't understand it unless you've been through it. And so I think that we were all feeling kind of isolated, alone, and now we have each other and we're stronger together.
What do you need to hear from the people you're meeting, the politicians you're meeting?
It would be nice to hear that they're wanting accountability and transparency, but honestly, we're hearing that with Pam Bondi's case coming up tomorrow, that the Republicans are only going to ask things about how well she's doing, as opposed to accountability questions and full transparency of why survivors' names were not redacted and why predators' names were redacted.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you both about that. Liz, it's frankly astonishing, isn't it, how often survivors' email addresses, their phone numbers, their names are in the files unredacted, yet time after time the presumed perpetrators are taken out.
Well, we think that
what was your reaction when you kind of saw that?
I think that we were really disappointed when we saw the files come out and we saw how heavily the names of the people who are potentially implicated in this crime were redacted. And we saw the omission of so much survivor data. I can tell you myself that when I found information on myself, my name was unredacted several times. Part of my address was unredacted. And so we see again and again where powerful people who caused us harm are being protected and we're being exposed. And so I think that that can be intentional. I think that when information is released that exposes survivors, it is meant to silence us, but it's done the opposite. It's just made us stronger, it's made us angrier, and it's made us more steadfast in our pursuit of justice.
Sorry.
I feel the exact same way as Liz. When we see our names unredacted, it's wholeheartedly disappointing. We don't trust this justice system anymore. The truth and accountability is not there. They are hiding predators. And what are they hiding? And what are the legal reasons that these predators' names were redacted and ours were shown? It's unacceptable.
Do you think it was deliberate that this was done?
It feels deliberate. It feels like they are doing this to have us not say any more about what happened to us. And when our names are fully out there, our addresses, our phone numbers, it was the law for that to not happen, and it did. And predators' names were redacted. That is definitely something that feels intentional.
In the UK, there has already been a degree of accountability. We've had resignations from key advisors to the Prime Minister. We've had, obviously, Prince Andrew having his titles removed. Yet in the US, there's been precious little accountability. That must be very difficult for you. How do you feel about that?
I feel that the UK has taken accountability and is dealing with these files in a respectable way. I feel like survivors are not respected in America, and I feel that there are people that are rooting for us, like Thomas Massey and Ro Khanna, who made this bill, but then the actual real predators whose names they have found in the files, there's nothing they're doing about them.
I think that what we are seeing in Europe is a good start. I think that the American people should follow suit. I think that what we're looking at right now is decades of an institutional failure on the American government's part. And so while we haven't seen much accountability yet, we're really hoping that we start to see it. We're really hoping that, that the powerful men that are potentially involved in the United States, face at least the same social repercussions that they're facing in England.
What do you think has been taken out of the files? We know that there are about 2.5 million files that still have not been released. What do you think are in those files that haven't been released?
I think we don't know, and that's why we need for them to be released. Why are they still withholding almost 3 million documents? And, from what we saw released in the last dump of files, that was really horrific. We saw some incredibly horrific information. So if that's what we're seeing that they're willing to release, what are we not seeing?
Do you suspect, Charlene, that there are videos and photos of perpetrators that are being held back?
I know there are videos and photos. I know that Jeffrey had recording cameras in his house, and I know that there's definitely things that they don't want to release for the public for many reasons.
Do you think President Trump is is included in some of those files?
I think that many people have been named, and I think that that's not a question for survivors. It's the job of the Department of Justice to follow up on leads that they have in this case.
Do you trust the Department of Justice to do that?
I can't say that I have a whole lot of faith in the current Justice Department, but I'm always willing to be proven wrong.
Yesterday we saw Ghislaine Maxwell appear before a congressional committee. She pleaded the Fifth. She invoked her right to silence. They did release, I don't know if you've seen it, a video of her not answering any questions. What did you make of that, just seeing her?
I feel that that is not any transparency or taking any kind of accountability for what happened. She is a convicted sex offender, and I feel that that was more of a bargaining tool for her as opposed to actually telling the truth.
I don't think anyone was surprised that she invoked the Fifth Amendment yesterday. We've seen this behavior over and over and over again, using what she knows about this case as a bargaining chip for more leniency when she is a convicted sex offender. And I think that it's also important to really pay attention to the fact that Ghislaine Maxwell has perjured herself in depositions. She was mistruthful in her interview with Todd Blanche this past summer. And I just really wonder why we keep giving her the opportunity to tell the truth, and we haven't given the survivors the opportunity to tell the truth.
There are calls for the former ambassador to the US, Peter Mandelson, and former Prince Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor, to come and give evidence here. Do you think that would be useful?
Yes, I would support that because they have evidence towards everything that has happened to us. However, I also hope that they don't take note of what Ghislaine Maxwell just did and plead the Fifth.
I think that if Peter Mandelson and Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor were to appear, that would be incredibly helpful. I think that anyone who's been named in these files who could have any information about the crimes that were committed need to show their bravery and tell the truth about what they know. It's important to remember that just because someone's named doesn't necessarily mean that they're implicated in Epstein's crimes. However, they may have information about those crimes, and we need for these people to come forward and to be brave and to tell what they know.
Has the royal family's response been sufficient so far?
I feel like it has been sufficient so far because Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor no longer carries the title that he has, but I also feel like I don't know if that's enough. I feel that he still has financial gain from the family that he was born into. However, I do respect the royal family and I respect all the decisions that they have made.
How would you gauge the public reaction of the rest of the royal family with regard to this? Have they been sympathetic enough? Have they said enough about survivors, in your view?
Yes, I do feel like they need to say more and be sympathetic to the survivors. And although I understand it is the king's brother, I think that's why it might have taken so long, because it is hard when it's a family relationship to actually, come out and say things against your brother. But I do commend him for what he just said yesterday and accepting what survivors have gone through.
When you said that you're aware that there are videos and photos and that there were cameras in Jeffrey Epstein's property, what kind of things do you think are on those video recordings?
Well, I know from my personal experience what happened to me, and those videos and photos have not been released. So I do know that there's a lot of things that have not been released in regards to what happened to me personally and from what I hear from the other survivors.
Just to be clear, do you think some of the abuse you suffered was recorded covertly by Jeffrey Epstein?
It has been alleged that it was recorded, and there were some times, to be honest, when I was there, that Jeffrey would know what was going on and he would question me about it. And I didn't know how he knew that at the time. Specifically, there were even conversations in cars that would come and pick me up from where I was and bring me to the house. And if I was having a conversation in the car, he would know about it. So I always found these things a little bit strange. So I do believe that there were cameras, and it has been said there were cameras. I've made several phone calls from different places that I was at, his house or even on the island, and I haven't heard those come out. There's a lot of things that have happened to me that have not been released.
For you, what does justice look like in this case? Where are you trying to get to in this journey?
Justice would look like accountability and transparency, truth moving forward, protection for the survivors, legal ramifications for anybody who has hurt us, the truth to actually come out. I'm also really concerned. What's happened to us happened to us, but what about the next generation? So for accountability and truth to happen, we need some reforms to be made. We need to completely redo the system for the public to have trust in it again. And we need to protect the next generation from another sex trafficking crime.
Our attention is being redirected because of the men who are potentially involved in this case. And this issue has been politicized in a way that it absolutely should not be. This is a crime. We are victims of the crime of human trafficking. And to have this crime that was committed against us be played out in the political arena has been really, really difficult for us, because when you peel back the layers, right, we are girls and young women. We may be women, grown women now, but we were girls and young women who were victimized by Epstein and Maxwell in a sex trafficking ring. And if this was John Doe who lived down the street from you, I think that people would view this very differently than they're viewing it now because of the names of the people that are involved.
When you talk about the names of the people involved, how wide, I mean, did you get any kind of sense with your interactions with Epstein of how wide this went? This was international in dimension, but how many people do you think were involved with the abuse?
I think that we have no way of knowing that. This is a crime that, by the DOJ's own admission, has 1,000 victims. And so when you're thinking about people that could be involved in the crime of sex trafficking, you're not only talking about the men who are purchasing sex or who are exploiting the young women, but you're thinking about all of the systems that are enabling them. What were the financial systems that enabled them? What were the social systems that enabled them? So when we're looking at the crime of sex trafficking, we really need to look further than just the perpetrators of the crimes.
And Charlene, do you get the impression that this was way bigger than we currently realise?
Yes, and I think that will be found in the files that have not been released.
And I mean, you must know, having talked to other survivors and through your own knowledge, some of the perpetrators that haven't been named. I'm not asking you to name them, but can you give us a sense of the types of people that we may end up eventually finding out about?
I think the types of people are very powerful and wealthy people. Their names are being hidden because they are powerful and wealthy, and they have the financial resources and basically the connections to do this.
I've heard it suggested in the last 24 hours, for example, senior figures in foreign governments.
Yeah.
That chimes with what you know, is it?
Yes, I think it's the most powerful, wealthy people in the world that are all connected, to be honest.
How difficult has this process been for you? What are the kind of the darkest places you've had to go mentally to get to where you are today?
I think that any time you're asking someone to relive the most horrific moments of their life, it's going to take a toll in one way or another. I think that when we look at survivors, there are a lot of terms we can use. We can use victim, we can use survivor, and the term that I like to use is thriver. And I feel like there's a trajectory. I think that, any one of those labels may fit you any time of any day. And so while this is really incredibly difficult to relive over and over and over again, for me, it might be the reliving it that is fueling me to seek justice for it, because it's been so difficult. And we are at a point now where this is no longer just about us. This is about survivors of sexual assault everywhere. And they're watching what's happening. They're watching how we're being treated. And we have a chance to really set the tone for a different way of being as a society here. And what I really fear is that if survivors continue to see us treated the way that we're being treated, that could have a really chilling and silencing effect, because people who are already reluctant to talk about the crimes that have been committed against them might feel even more so after seeing what's going on with us in the moment. But again, like I said, this is about more than us, and we have a responsibility. We have this position of visibility that not many survivors get, and we take that really seriously. And so we're going to do whatever we have to find justice, not just for ourselves, but for survivors everywhere.
On your social media, I know you you have 3 words to describe yourself. I don't know if you can recall those, but just explain what they are and why you picked those 3 words to sum up who you are.
I chose unmatched, unbreakable, and unapologetic because it takes a lot of strength to speak out. And I just recently came out, and the reason I recently came out is because I was unable to speak out earlier, I was in an abusive relationship. So I went from being abused from Jeffrey straight into an abusive relationship. So this is me taking my power back, and I'm unmutable, meaning I'm going to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And I'm unbreakable because, well, honestly, I learned to have my survivor sisters, and I really felt like they make me feel stronger than ever. We really do lean on each other, and I honestly couldn't do this without them. Going out into the world by yourself, just as a person who's abused by anybody in a relationship, it's hard to mentally come back from that. And these people actually fully understand. My girls, these survivor sisters, understand everything that I've been through. I have never had this experience before in my life, and it's beautiful.